They say opposites attract.
Well, how about these opposites? Daddies and sons.
You're listening to Daddy and Son.
A podcast where we explore the dynamics of daddy and son relationships, multi-generational views,
And everything else in between.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome back.
Daddy,
Welcome back. You've been on the road.
I have been away for 5.5 weeks. Yes, exhausted.
Yes.
Give me a little bit of grace if I don't sound the same way that I used to, etc. 7 countries in 5 weeks is a lot.
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot.
A lot of drinking, too, I hear.
So as you can see, I'm here having my cucumber slices.
He's detoxing.
I've only been
everybody.
eating greens. I'm I'm serious. Like, I am detoxing. No black tea. I am drinking lots of water. I am
Water? You've already picked up a British accent for being away. My goodness. He's been back less than 24 hours, everybody.
I'm completely turning a new leaf until Pride. Once Pride comes around, then that's when I'll touch gin again. But until then, it's only white wine, only white tea, only green tea, only water.
What is white tea? It's like, what is white tea? I don't know what white tea is.
It's a kind of tea, but it's white tea is popularly known to be rich in antioxidants. So it's great for people who are detoxing. It's not packed with caffeine like black tea.
Like Tetley, for instance.
Like Tetley's a black tea, yeah.
Black tea, okay. I've never heard of white tea. I've heard of green tea and black tea, and
No?
green tea I've heard of. They have that in Portugal. I've never heard of white tea. The world of Alex.
Yeah, you gotta.
The wide world of Alex. Did everybody let us know if you have heard of white tea? I bet you we won't get too many calls on that one, but
I don't know. I would be surprised, but then again, our society over here is not a big tea. It's not a big tea society. We're more coffee drinkers.
Yeah,
we're a
yeah.
double nation.
yeah, that's true. Okay,
Yeah.
and you had a lot of that in the UK. No
And
doubt.
if you don't know what double means,
Well, go to Tim Hortons. You'll say double. They'll know what you mean.
the locals, you girlies know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you're not a local, when you visit, just go down to your local Tim Hortons and ask for a double. You'll smack your lips. Mwah. Now, how are you? How have you been?
I've been great.
Yeah, you look great. You look good.
I did take a few days down in the sun.
Mm-hmm. Jamaica, I heard.
Yeah, and that resort, the Bahia Principe, is, I wouldn't call it a 5-star. They like to think of themselves as a 5-star. They're not. But the food was good. The people were nice, but it was, it's oversold. I wouldn't go there again. But I feel good. I've been working out. I've started some new work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coped, as you said. I've succeeded the winter. Succeeded the winter. I've survived the winter. Yeah.
Yeah, with a nice soft glow.
Well, thank you. I wish the boys and girls on the other end could hear that and see that. They can hear it, but they can't see it.
So catch me up on all that I've been missing in the past 5.5 weeks.
Well, no.
While I was away.
You're the one with the news, my friend. You're the one that should be saying.
Do I have news?
Well, telling us what you did. All these places that you visited.
You know what? It's honestly, a lot of this is crazy. I think because from Spain, France, Austria, was in Vienna, as you know.
Oh, I'd love to go to Vienna. I really want to go to Vienna.
In Budapest, Hungary.
Yeah. Viktor Orban's land. Donald's friend.
It made me realize why Hitler really loved his hometown. It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
Is he from Hungary?
He's from Vienna.
Oh, Vienna. You're talking about Vienna.
Vienna.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Budapest, Hungary, ironically,
Yeah.
I felt more safe in than all the places I'd visited. Ironically, even though they just outlawed Pride. And I'll explain.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was the place that I found for especially for where we were, Eastern Europe. The people were more people were smiling. People were more
Interesting.
yeah. When we were in
That didn't used to be when they were behind the Iron Curtain.
Mm-mm.
Comrade, don't smile. We slap you.
But there were certain places like you would be in. When we were in Bratislava, and in Slovakia.
Yes.
We went to the one of the museums, and the lady she was like flailing her hands, and she's like, "Thanks for coming, thanks for coming," but she was doing this.
Like
with her
get out?
hands. Yeah, like get out.
Oh.
But she was saying thanks for coming. The actions for body language was not matching up to her mouth.
Yeah.
And it was just odd for all of us. We were like, why is everyone why even the lady at our hotel was just so angry, but not angry. It's weird because she's throwing so much sass. But when I asked her for an extra towel, pillows, she went out of her way to find the last 2 pillows in an entire hotel to give it to us. But, I mean,
the last 2 pillows in a hotel.
The last 2 pillows.
If they have to look for the last 2 pillows, they're not a 5-star either.
Oh, no, it was not a 5-star.
Oh.
But lovely little inn. But I ran upwards of 15 kilometers for multiple days in Budapest.
Wow.
It is very scenic. And let me tell you something about running in a foreign country. Running through the city, north to south, is one of the best ways to sightsee and gain exercise. Yeah.
What about walking?
I mean,
I'm a walker. I don't run, but I love to walk. Won't see as much, right?
At 71, do you walk or do you shuffle?
I walk. I put the 50-year-olds inches and feet behind me.
I'm just playing. Oh my god.
Wow.
So yeah, I ran a lot. I think the last leg being in Romania was what tipped me over the edge in terms of my immunity, because we were drinking like fishes. When I say drink, I mean
I can't do that anymore.
Drinking. And it was so odd because I went from only drinking on weekends, which I was doing since last year, November, December.
That's pretty good.
To drinking 24/7 around the trot. It was crazy, but it was so much fun. And yeah, it was.
Was it beer? What were you drinking?
No, it was
you're not a beer drinker.
Unicum.
Unicum?
Yeah, the cum of unicorns. Just playing. It's like a Jägermeister, but
I'm sorry, you're going to have to translate. This is a North American audience here.
So Jägermeister is
that sounds like beer to me.
No.
Oh,
it's a liqueur. It's a liqueur.
Oh,
it's a very strong liqueur, but it's German.
Yeah.
And
and what else is it?
Don't ask me what is in it.
Okay.
Couldn't tell you. I just know that it's pungent, it's strong, it will throw you over. In fact, one of the very first times I've ever been blackout drunk was from Jägermeister. But
I was going to say it also removes memories, but that's fine.
Listen, all I knew is that I woke up in the engineering dorm of some guy's bedroom in the UFT, and I was like, okay.
Not this trip, but another time.
No, like this was years ago.
Yes.
I was probably like 22 when that happened, like years ago. So this is like that, but not German. This is more Eastern European. I think it's Hungarian, but don't quote me on that.
Mm-hmm.
It also could be Romanian.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question. Did you have any good schnitzel when you were in Hungary?
I did not have a good schnitzel, but surprisingly, but what I did have was really good fried cheese.
Fried cheese.
Yeah, there's this actual name for it. Don't ask me what it is, but it is so it's like it's a huge chunk of cheese, like a huge block. But they fry it like a whole block of cheese, but it's breaded and fried.
Okay.
It looks like a schnitzel, but it's breaded and fried. So good. It's like if mozzarella cheese had fucked a pretzel and had a baby. Not a pretzel, a schnitzel. Sorry.
Pretzel, a schnitzel, and a fried cheese.
All the schnitzels.
That's quite a menu.
No. If it, like,
Did you have that in business class on Air Canada on the way home as well?
No.
Okay.
Unfortunately not.
They didn't offer you that. I'm sure they offered you.
Oh my
equally.
God. Let me tell you about that flight.
Oh, good.
Turbulence.
You were in business class, I presume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turbulence.
Oh, really?
When I say turbulence, the lady beside me, the person behind me were throwing up.
Oh, no. That's horrible.
At one point, I think the plane took a nosedive. Like, Norm.
Oh, that's horrible.
This is the most turbulence I'd ever experienced in a flight my entire life.
You know, I've been on 3 long-haul flights in the last less than a year. They were perfect.
Yeah?
All smooth. 1 from Europe, 2 from the Caribbean. 4-hour flights, 5 hours, 8-hour flights. I can't imagine it being that bad. That must have been and they couldn't have had a lot of service. If there's a lot of turbulence, you don't get a lot of service.
They tried their best. They tried their best, but no one had hot beverages this entire trip. I can tell you that much. No one had a hot beverage. It was really, really bad. One of the worst that I ever experienced. And granted, again, I went to 7 countries in the 5.5, nearly 6 weeks I was away, and not once did I experience turbulence like this. But
let me ask you a question. Sorry to interrupt. How long did it take you to plan this trip?
Well, I didn't plan it by myself.
Okay.
But
you were working with your
It was
friend.
a joint effort. Yeah, it was.
So how long? That's a lot of work to do to coordinate a trip of 5 weeks, even if you're only in 3 or 4 different places.
Well, you know what? When you put someone with OCD and a perfectionist together, their heads, organization, we will pull it off. However, herding cats, especially a gaggle of
Young Tories,
8 gay people and 3 straight people, all in one, is like herding cats.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were with that bigger group. From where to where were you doing that?
No, when I was in France and when I was in Spain, I was by myself.
Yeah.
That was by myself. The rest of the trip was with others.
Well, folks, we've been hearing about Alex's wonderful European trip, which I love hearing travel trips. Did you learn anything new on this trip about yourself and about other people?
I learned so much. Honestly, there were some humbling moments.
Yeah.
Especially shout out to the lady who gave the tour at the underground hospital bunker out in Budapest. Also, I want to give a huge, great tour, but I also want to give a huge shout out to that amazing tour guide at the St. Stephen Cathedral catacombs in Vienna. Yeah. Wow. The way how he turned such a dark topic and subject matter into humor and just made it consumable, even though you could feel the energy, like you saw all the bones stacked up, and the way he was describing it, I could literally smell the dead, because they were explaining how it had gotten so bad that they had all these bodies in the catacombs unorganized, and because everyone wanted to bury their loved ones in the cathedral,
How far back does this go in history? Is this the World War, or was it way before that?
Since then, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the issue was the Viennese the Austrian government had to basically say you can't bury in the cemetery next to the cathedral, but they didn't say the law didn't state that you couldn't bury underneath. So then what ended up happening is
we found a loophole.
Started getting so bad that they couldn't even hold masses in the cathedral. So they got prisoners to come in and spray down the walls, clean the bodies, and the ones that were already decomposed to stack the bones. So that's why all the walls from floor to ceiling in the catacombs is well organized and stacked bones and skulls.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is there an above ground tour as well?
There is that one is free.
Yeah, okay. I think I'll go for that one.
And I did go to mass there, and it is something to behold.
Wow.
It is something to behold. Let me tell you, I felt like a good Catholic boy. I placed my €2 and lit a candle for my mom. The last time
still burning,
I felt
folks.
this peace, except I didn't cry this time, was when I visited Montserrat in northern Spain, in Catalonia. And it wasn't a chapel. It was the monastery where they have the Madonna, the Black Madonna of Montserrat. I cried when I walked into that cathedral. Cried. I've never seen anything so beautiful in my entire life. Cried. Tears. Crocodile tears. When I tell you the Holy Ghost will smack you dead in the face, you have to visit. You must visit. Highly recommend. For a spiritual experience, 10 out of 10.
Well, the purpose of the Holy Ghost is to keep you alive, not to kill you. But I hope it was a good experience.
Well, yeah, not to kill you, but like when you go to black churches and they get touched and everybody just like
falls on the ground.
They shake and then drop to the ground. It's because the Holy Ghost gave them a bit slap. It was like, psh. And they were like, ah. They feel it. You're supposed to feel the spirit going through you. It's like an earthquake. You feel it.
We Anglicans celebrate in quite a different way, but
very somber, very
not
demure.
Somber, joyful, very, very down to earth.
But not close enough to the earth to fall to the ground.
Not in the catacombs, that's for sure. Well, we do have some other topics to cover today, don't we?
Yes. And for those of you who are just listening, and it's been a long since we haven't even introduced ourselves.
No, that's terrible.
My name is Alex.
And I'm Norm. And we should have done this 20 minutes ago, right?
Welcome to Daddy and Son.
Yeah, well, we haven't done this for so long. We're a little out of practice, aren't we?
Well, you know what? If for a long time listeners, I'm sure they're excited to hear what we've been up to. And, kind of like know our opinions on, because this week we're doing a Shoot Your Shit episode.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know or just joined us for the first time and don't know what a Shoot Your Shit episode is, Shoot Your Shit episodes are just episodes that they're not overly produced, and it's just Norm and I having a conversation about what's on our mind, about whatever we want to talk about. It's like
underproduced.
What was the?
They're spontaneous conversations about topical issues and things that are relevant at the time.
Sometimes it can be deep. Whatever is in the tinkle box. Is it tickle box?
I'm not sure which box you're talking about, but we do have some other topics to cover.
I guess that's not your generation. Never mind.
Tinker Box, Tinker Toys, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
No, I think there was a Canadian guy who had a show on television, and my Canadian friends keep telling me about it, and he talked about going into his tickle box or tinkle box. I think it was tickle box.
I think he was trying to seduce you, honey.
For those of you who are listening and are local, please drop it in the comment section on Spotify. Let me know, so I don't make an ass of myself. But in all this, but you know what? You brought a lovely Vergedo wine. For those of you who do not know, it's a Spanish white, crisp, delicious,
And I've run out.
clean. And because Norma's ran out, his cup needs to be overfloweth, as the Bible said. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Welcome back. So I want to ask you, Norm.
Uh-oh.
While
being
I was
interviewed.
away,
Yes.
as much as my friends kept telling me to stop looking at Reddit, stop looking at CTV News app, stop looking at the BBC News app, I couldn't help myself. And I learned that we had called an election,
We have.
a snap election, in just, 2 weeks from now, I guess?
3.5. 28th of April.
Oh, I thought it was the 25th. 28th.
28th.
Okay. As someone who's been in the political sphere for over 40 years?
Closer to 50.
Right. What do you think is the angle behind Carney deciding to do this now rather than waiting until October? What's the strategy behind that? And hold on, it's a two-parter. And what do you think is going to be the do you think is going to happen leading up over the next 3 weeks to this snap election?
Well, I don't consider it a snap election. I think it was an inevitable. I think for him to call it
That's
sooner
the
than
actual
later.
definition of a snap election, though. But go on.
Well, he just got in as leader. He doesn't have a seat. He doesn't really have a mandate. And I think, I'm not a liberal, but I think it was the right thing to do. The other thing is he's in a tremendous position right now because of the Trump and the tariff thing to be shown in a position of leadership. And as a result, the liberals have overtaken the conservatives and are on their way probably to win the election. I mean, it's to have waited probably wouldn't have been a good decision in terms of, what he's doing. So I think the question is going to be now, is Mr. Pelevra going to be able to bring people back to his side, at least to make it a close call? Because right now it looks like the liberals are going to trounce them again. The funny thing is the conservatives are doing better than they've done in years. This is the irony of it. What's happened in Canada is that anybody that's on the left has basically moved over to the center where the liberals are. And we're basically going to go back to a two-party system in this country.
Yeah.
But the real threat is, and it's, look, I was looking at my portfolio today. I mean, I'm down 10% in a month and a half. That's for people that are looking at their retirement, and there's a lot of them in the States, that this is happening in the States, they're freaking out. We are dealing with, this is, by the way, this is a day.
It's more looking like a 375K.
About a 275K. Yeah, 200K. No, you're right. I mean, I think there's going to be tremendous pushback in a few months on the Trump tariffs. Everybody thinks this is settled and everything. I think there's going to be such pushback, he's going to have to reverse it, and he's going to be forced to reverse it. I really, really think that. Now, I could be wishful thinking, but...
which is what I think it is. If it's one thing that I've learned from... Because here's the thing. I don't, by any stretch, consider myself a political scientist.
But you are political.
I don't consider myself, by stretch, to know a lot about anything.
Oh, that's baloney.
But
you know a lot, my
since
friend.
I've been observing things, I'm hardly ever wrong when I observe these things. And I'm starting to understand a lot behind the psychology, not just of the people who are running for office these days, but the people in which are their audience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to understand a lot behind the psychology of it, and I genuinely do not think that this tariff situation with Trump is something that he's going to pull back on. I think the only way this will happen is if
he is impeached. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, that's one way to do it, but that would never happen.
So you think there's not going to be enough opposition to this from constituents and from congressmen and senators?
Well,
the Senate's already on record as opposing it.
If Congress takes back the power of the purse, which they've basically given him full reign on, but if they collectively take back power of the purse, this is something that, because economic stability is actually supposed to be one of the major jobs of Congress. And if they take back that power from the executive branch, there's a possibility that the tariffs may get reversed. But unless that happens, or anybody have the balls to do that, I don't believe that there will be any reverse of course from Mr. Trump's office.
May I offer a different view?
Go ahead.
Well, first of all, for those of you that follow politics, and you may have missed this on the traveling, but the Senate voted to overturn the tariff decisions by Trump yesterday.
Uh-huh.
That will now go to the House.
Mm-hmm.
The House will not agree to that because it's mostly Republican.
Right.
But here's my point. People are going to be suddenly paying more for cars, for food, for childcare,
mm-hmm.
for medical stuff, for anything that has an input of metal, oil, copper, anything that we export is going to cost the American consumer
uranium.
more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the people who are retired are going to see their retirement savings cave. They're going to start squawking real loud. When people's pockets get pinched, they start to squawk and scream.
But
and that is going to cause Congress to say, wait a minute, Mr. Trump, we need to reverse course. It'll take a few months, but I think it's going to happen.
I don't think so.
Okay, well, we'll find out.
I don't think so.
Okay.
We'll find out.
Well,
just as how I said to you that Trump was going to win, and he said no. People like settled, but come on, let me tell you.
A lot of people thought he was going to win.
Let me tell you what is what I've been hearing on the ground. Right?
On the Reddit community,
on the streets, the internet streets.
Yeah, well, let's Reddit. In the catacombs of the world, the catacombs of the cyberspace.
I've been hearing in the internet streets. That man, that lawless man, he don't give a fuck.
That's
he
true.
Don't. And the people who voted for him, they equally don't give a fuck.
No, they do. The ones that are now regretting it do.
But here's the thing. They don't care enough to go against
not yet
the cult.
That's fine.
And you may be right, not yet. But as far as I can see and I can psychologically analyze, these people will be homeless 2 years from now and still turn around and blame Democrats.
Well,
they will.
That may be true, but I still think that there are enough people who aren't beholden to a particular movement that are going to say, my livelihood is at risk here.
Ignorance is a bliss, ain't it?
But this isn't ignorance. These are people that are worried about whether they're going to keep their house.
Ignorance.
Well, if you're worried about whether you're going to keep your house or have enough money for your retirement, you're going to start being very concerned. You're going to register those concerns with people who are your congressmen in the U.S. I just think...
So you really do think... You saw what I did today as an example, where I wrote the...
Yeah, I haven't read
City of Toronto
about bike lanes.
About bike lanes.
Yes, I have a friend that's very concerned about bike lanes.
And I was just like, I'm over it. I know I haven't been in the country for 24 hours, but I was over it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to start exercising my constitutional right
to write your city councilor.
My city council. But how many people, how many me's do you think are out there? Because here's the issue,
there's a
Norm.
movement. Well,
You're thinking like an educated, rational-minded individual, and what you're failing to understand is that 2/3 of the population don't think the way you do.
No, but why did you write about the bicycles?
Because they told us that they're going to strip up the Esplanade and build. Sorry, and for those listening, the Esplanade is a street that I live on. Probably shouldn't say that on air, but
they wouldn't find you.
They're going to dig it up and put bike lanes in place.
That's because they're being forced to take them off other routes. By the way, that's disaster. That will.
It's a complete disaster.
I mean, I've seen the lineups on the street outside to get onto the Gardner at Young Street.
It's a disaster on Adelaide. It's a disaster on Bloor. It's a disaster.
Well, they're going to get removed on Bloor and Young and University. The provincial government's going to see to that.
Oh,
did you not know that?
But you knew. This is why, again, everything is not in a vacuum.
No, but you took the effort to write a note to your representative.
And I meant that to say, while I may vote one way locally, or vote a different way provincially,
sure,
or vote a different way federally, everything's not in a vacuum. Because I don't vote for parties like I'm cheering on my favorite basketball team.
Which is? You're not sure. I know.
Raptors?
We used to have a good basketball team here. That's another issue. But the point is, what I'm saying is,
who you vote for, team, is it?
Who you vote for here is irrelevant. What's relevant is what issue is important to you, and what do you do about it. And what you did about it is exactly what a lot of people in the U.S. are going to do when they realize my economic fortunes are falling. It's an assumption based on political behavior.
No,
people respond to threats.
I like to push back on that.
Well, we'll see.
I think people generally do not understand. I've only been in this country for 11 years, and I know more about the levels and structure of government than people who were born in this country.
Fair enough. But that isn't what people are going to look at. They're going to look at the price of groceries, the price of their mortgage, and their retirement savings, their ability to buy a new house. And they're going to
complain to their friends down at the pub and do nothing about it, but complain.
That their car is costing $5,000 more, that they don't have money to go out and eat anymore, which means there's going to be layoffs at the restaurant, which means the guy that has a job 5 nights a week only has a now job 2 nights a week. He's not able to. It's all going to spin through the economy.
Yeah, but
people
you're not
are going to realize
me what people are going to do about it.
What they're going to do about it.
Because people are just going to be miserable and they're going to complain, but they're not going to take any civil action.
Well, they are, and when you were away, when you were away, you may not be aware that there were some town halls where Republicans were defending the work of Elon Musk and some of the things that are going on.
Oh yes,
and there's huge outcry. Wait till Elon Musk is going to be small potatoes compared to the other complaints we're going to see. That's my prediction. I really believe people will respond to pocketbook stuff.
Well, I think otherwise.
Okay.
Well, I just generally do not think that people are as educated as you're giving them credit.
You don't have to be You don't need to be educated. This is the average Joe realizing this.
You do. And hear me out. You do.
You have to be motivated.
Simple things such as civics, simple things such as understanding what your responsibility and your duty to the Constitution as a responsible human being living in this, as a responsible adult, isn't taught in schools. They don't teach taxes.
No, but
they don't teach you what a mortgage is. They don't teach you how to budget.
And
they don't teach you about how to exercise your constitutional rights.
That's true in Canada. That's not true in the United States.
Well,
the United States, listen, de Tocqueville, Democracy in America, he wrote that book in the 1840s. He already identified that the citizens of the United States take charge of their community. They want to be involved. And they're doing that, and I tell you, there's going to be a revolution. It's going to take a few months, but when those car factories in Detroit shut down and people
45 million people decide to sit down on the couch last November, I don't believe that. No.
Well, they didn't see what's coming. Nobody listen.
No,
Even the Republicans,
what do you mean by people didn't see what was coming?
they didn't.
I don't know.
They saw.
We already saw what we had with one term of Trump.
Nobody
I'm not
predicted.
even American, and I saw that.
Nobody
I don't
predicted.
even have 2020 vision, and I saw that.
You did not predict this level of reciprocal tariff action that was announced yesterday.
Please. Helen Keller could have seen what was coming. I don't know what you mean.
Oh, do we need another glass of wine for that?
I don't.
That's shameful. That's a slam against people that don't see.
I don't know what you mean about nobody could have seen that coming. No, I don't believe
Helen Keller, that's a
case.
good line. I gotta remember that one.
I genuinely believe
God rest her soul.
that a lot of people, Norm, they just do not understand. Because
They don't.
let me give you a fair example.
All right.
And when I say this, you're going to understand what I mean. How many times? Well, I mean, it depends on what your circle is like. Because your circle is very.
I don't have a circle.
Your circle is very high
read.
society.
No, it's not.
Your circle is very well read.
You're the
your
one that.
Your circle is educated.
No, my circle.
Your circle
I am.
is pinky up in the air. You know.
You should talk, Mr. British MP circular next to the palace crew.
Well, you know, but
This girl knows royalty. I'll have you know, folks.
I'll put it this way. I think a lot of folks, right, who they will go down to the local pub, they'll go to the gym, they'll get information from Tom, Dick, and Harry, and then that information, which is broken, ends up coming to another conversation with their family, airing their frustrations, and everybody's like, yeah, that is, you
Polling.
know, ever since
Polling.
this person and that person was president, or ever since this person and that person was prime minister,
Polling.
I've noticed that this has been the case, when all they're talking about is things that has to do with school.
Polling.
Things that has to do with their city, things that has to do with their roads, things that has nothing to do with the federal government. But because how many people, population-wise, percentage-wise, turn out to vote for local elections? Or let's never talk about Canada. Let's talk about the U.S. Turn out to vote in primaries or special elections versus general elections. Not a lot. You've said so yourself.
I agree with you, but
and that is because you and I know the most important election is actually not the one that people think it is, which is the federal. The one that truly impacts people's day of life, the pocketbook issues, the social justice issues, the infrastructure issues is what? The local government.
well, all politics is local. Everybody's concerned about. My point is simply how are people going to respond to the impact of tariffs, and they're not going to take it sitting down.
Well,
that's all I'm going to say.
10 months
and the
from
pollsters are already saying
this.
That it won't take 10 months, but we will have to have a revisit on this, right?
Oh yeah, we will definitely revisit this.
Yeah,
and you will have to give me my accolades and tell me, you know what, son?
Bitch, you don't know what's coming yet. Don't make any predictions until we see the truth.
You're gonna say you were right. Speaking of predictions, what do you think is going to come off this South Korea, Japan, and China alliance? Because as you saw last week, all their trade ministers met, and they have put out a joint statement saying that they will unite as a region against the tariffs of the United States. How do you think, especially with all the resources and the trade routes, and the US kind of bullying themselves into taking over the Panama Canal, how do you think this is going to affect trade and commerce in the near coming future?
Look, let's face it. Trump has thrown a wrench into the global trading system, the whole economic system, the way the world works. People that once relied on the United States for trade and for stuff are going to look for other allies to do business with. and what's happening between the three countries you just mentioned is inevitable.
I think honestly, the United States has overestimated their importance to the world.
I think there's some truth in that. They are important, but I
No,
think
they
they're
are
going
important.
they're going to maybe realize that not, as you say, not as important, because it's going to cause. Okay, we got to find an alternative here.
They were as important as the reliability,
And they're not reliable now.
and now they're not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny. You and I, we agree on a lot of stuff. Here we are, 40 years, 50 years difference in age? 40. Let's do 45. Whatever. I forgot how old you are. 40 years, 30 years. We agree on a lot of stuff. We disagree on some things which anybody around the world could disagree with, right? I mean, it's regardless of age. But
Yeah.
I agree with you. There's going to be some reorganizing of countries in terms of who's going to do what. And even Canada now is, hey, maybe we should be looking to China.
Mm-hmm.
Who would have thought 6 months ago we would be doing that?
That does surprise me a lot, especially given after the Yahweh fiasco, which did put a wrench between relationship, the diplomatic relationships. But I see a lot of the strained diplomatic relationships we've had, especially that with countries like India. I see that changing over the next 6 months, because nothing says a friend of my enemy is also my friend more. Listen, as I said to my friends in the UK, Trump is like Madonna and music. He brings the people together. And with that, we'll take a quick break. So,
we're back.
One of the things that I want to wrap with today is talking about somewhat, it's almost like a slow topic.
Mm-hmm.
A hidden topic, if anything. Something that is so underrepresented because nobody really talks about it, is something that we don't really acknowledge. But we're seeing, because
good way of putting it.
Yeah.
I know what you're going to say because we were talking about it offline.
Nobody really, because we're so hyper focused on people coming to this country, like quote unquote, this
people
quote
coming
unquote
here,
immigration crisis, which my opinion is it's manufactured, but I digress. Yeah, yes, I do believe immigration crisis in Canada is manufactured. In the US, not so much, but here it is very much manufactured.
Well, in Brampton, they think it's real, but anyway, that's another issue.
That's a different conversation, because if we're gonna talk about immigration to the population need of this country, we are still underpopulated.
Well, overall, but we have pockets where we don't have the infrastructure to support the influx of people that have occurred, such as in Toronto.
But that's a different conversation.
True.
It doesn't mean that we have an immigration crisis.
It
means we have an infrastructure crisis. There's a difference between the two.
There's a point to that. Okay. But what were you going to say about what we were talking about offline?
What a lot of people are missing is the opposite end of that.
Yes.
The quiet part that nobody talks about, which is people leaving the country
or giving up here and deciding to stay home
because they are unable to find prosperity, whether that's financial prosperity, social prosperity. They're not able
contracts,
to work. They're not able to make it, and so they're either moving back to their own countries or moving to very different countries.
Well, let me share something personal along those lines. I have a friend who's been here for 11, 12 years. Mm-hmm. He finished his education here. He got his engineering degree. He got some very good work for a number of years. Made a couple of years where he made quite a lot of money, 6 figures.
Yeah.
The last year or two, the trough has been dry. He's right now self-employed, and the contracts just aren't barely paying anything. And he's basically decided, you know what? I'm going to go home, or has been at home in the Caribbean for most of the winter, and has decided I'm not sure I'm coming back to Canada to live.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people, and that's the quiet. You don't hear those stories.
That's the quiet part.
They're
No,
anecdotal,
we do not hear
but they
those
don't.
stories.
We don't track that.
But
we don't
they
record
are
that.
more common than you think.
I believe you're right.
They're more common than you think because there's no reason why you have a friend. Just in, all right.
And
Let
I
me
know
put it this way.
Okay.
We've been hearing a lot of stories, right?
Yeah,
Either
anecdotal.
through social media or through the news of people who are coming to this country and staying and running away illegally. But how many people, just between you and I, do we know like that exists?
Who are
Here illegally?
I don't know a lot of people who are here illegally, but perhaps you do.
Yeah, zero.
You know what? Truth,
Zero.
I don't know whether they're here. I don't often ask. I assume
Zero.
they're here.
I don't know anyone in this country who is here illegally. Everyone who is in this country is here because they were given
A visa?
residency.
Yeah.
They were given a visa and they have the right to be in this country.
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side, let's talk about how many people have left.
Yeah, I think
because
we're
what
talking
you're
about.
hearing, this is why I say it's manufactured. Because what you're hearing and the reality of what we know is different.
Well, I go back to this word called, starts with P, polling. The pollsters tell us, and even the immigrants tell us, we have too many immigrants for the infrastructure and the economic growth of where we're at. Yes, long term, we're going to need more people. Right now, we have too many that we can't support.
That is a whole different conversation.
It is another issue. It's a
that
different
is,
issue.
That is a conversation for another podcast. But I'll tell you this: I have had friends.
Yeah. Who?
Caribbean friends and Latin friends as well, who have decided that they were moving back to Colombia.
Interesting.
Or they're moving back to Cuba.
My point exactly. My friend is that situation.
Or they're moving back to Jamaica.
Yep. Or Barbados or wherever.
Or wherever, because they find that there's no economic prosperity for them here.
And that is a sad thing.
And
you know what that does?
Something that is a reality.
It's a reality. And you know what? It hurts where you lose a good friend.
The last one, the most recent one was as recent as this past February.
Yeah.
He left. He's been here since 2020. He and his girlfriend, they broke up because of financial reasons.
Mm-hmm.
She stayed, and he was like, I'm going back to Colombia because I can't make it work.
Yep. And you know what? I think there's probably in any immigration scenario, there's going to be a percentage of people who return home. That's probably inevitable. But I have a feeling that in the last few years in Canada,
in your
it's
30s
higher.
and you're moving away because you're finding it hard to make ends meet and you're living hand to mouth.
You're right. It didn't
That's
happen.
a whole different conversation.
It didn't happen here 30, 40 years ago. People were staying. Mm-hmm. They were making it. Right now, and with the tariffs and stuff and the problem with the economy, they're definitely going to have to slow down the inflow of people, and there's probably going to be other people leaving. That's what's going to happen in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. For those of you who are maybe listening in other countries, we're just giving you some perspective on Canada.
You know, because I want to speak on the whole immigration, because yes, I know my surface level reasons as to why I think it is a manufactured topic. I don't trust polls. No, hear me out. I don't trust polls because polls will say one thing, and then on election day, the only poll that counts is the electoral polls. Those are the only polls that matter to me.
But polls measure a lot more than just who you're going to vote for.
When people do these polls, these quote unquote, I don't get called for these polls. I've never gotten a call.
I do. I've been called or polled.
But I've never been to call, text, email, or telegrammed.
Here's what polls do.
And not the one where state secrets are being shared on.
May I offer an opinion? I am the political scientist in the room, if I may.
Okay, go on.
What polls do is tell the politicians what the issues are, which issues are most important to people.
Mm-hmm.
That is what's going to determine who wins the election here in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Trump or is it your pocketbook? If it's Trump, Carney's going to win. If Mr. Pullever is successful in getting people to focus on what's in your pocket and income support and all that, the Conservatives have a chance.
Can I say, and I'll give a pushback to that. I think it was the governor of Michigan
Oh, yeah.
who recently said, she herself said, I stopped listening to polls.
Mm-hmm.
She said, this last election was a wake-up call. It was a close call for her seat. And she's like a wake-up call. She said, I started hitting the ground running, boots to the ground, myself, and started asking
Gretchen,
people.
what's her name? Gretchen, I can't think of it. Wilmer.
Is Gretchen something?
Yep,
Well,
okay. She's a Democrat.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And she said, I started asking people in hospitals, in the grocery store, anywhere, what matters most to you?
Yeah.
What is the one thing that matters most to you?
She was polling people, wasn't she?
However, she wasn't looking at other polls.
No, but she was getting her own polls.
She was getting her own poll, or her own quote-unquote poll. And
what was she learning?
She said, what is the one thing that is important to you? She said, no, it wasn't that. People were more interested in fixing roads in Michigan.
Oh, listen, if you've ever driven in Detroit, I can understand that.
She said,
to your point from earlier, local issues.
She was like, she was in a hospital and this person was an amputee and she was asking them, what's the most important issue to you? And she said, the person looked at her and said, fix the damn effing road. And she said she wasn't expecting that because this is someone who can't even drive. What do you mean by fix the road?
Well, they can't even walk anyway.
And they were saying, and that's when it clicked to her. She was like, the person explained that because of how bad the roads are, there are ambulances that won't even come to their part of town.
Or my car gets busted and I have to go to get it repaired and it costs me money.
When they need healthcare, to access the healthcare. And so, again, what these
interesting
these higher, more organized polls, what they're saying, oftentimes are probably
miss the point. They
miss the mark.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, I never thought of it that way.
And that's why I think there's something to be said because again, if we look at the polls, right now here in our local constituents, our local riding here, I probably guarantee that the top 3 issues probably not even going to cover bike lanes.
Not in the federal election, no.
But if you walk, again,
traffic.
This is
what's the most what's the most important issue to you?
This is where the two things intersect.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, as I mentioned 20 minutes ago into this podcast, a lot of people do not differentiate between local issues and where they fall in federal election. Because they don't even go out to vote in local elections.
Well, you know what? It also depends on how you frame the question to people. If you say, what's the most important issue to you? Somebody might be inclined to say roads or bike lanes. But if you say, what's the most important thing to you in the federal election? People will say, oh, okay.
Oh, please. No, Norm, again.
This is the political scientist in me, the pollster in me.
You're thinking like someone who is so.
But if
is the
I'm
problem
a party,
that they have with Democrats in the U.S.
But if
you're
I'm a
too
party,
highly educated.
No, but if I'm a party
you're not
strategist,
like a normal person.
No, but look, if I'm your friend in the UK trying to figure out how to communicate to my constituents, I got to know what's on the mind of the voters in my constituency in order to speak to them. That sounds like I know what they are concerned about.
Yeah, but people don't talk like that. You talk like a highly educated person.
Well, thank you for that compliment.
You're making people feel like they're dumb, and that's why they don't like
Well,
Dems.
so do you, because you're not exactly dumb yourself, pal.
Yeah, but I know how to speak in the common tongue.
That is BS. And that is BS is as common as it comes. Well, I think we've wrapped up today's session, don't you? Welcome back, Alex.
Thank you.
Alex is going to sign us off, folks.
Okay.
It's good to be back. It's good to be back.
Let me compose myself for this. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you've made it all the way to the end, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Daddy and Son.
Which you won't find, but anyway, that's another issue.
Well, you have to subscribe so you can push us through the algorithm so that we will be the first thing you find when you type it up on YouTube. We are suppressed by the algorithm. We are suppressed.
Apple or Spotify is the way to find us, folks.
With that being said, is there any last words you want to tell the girlies, the community? Do you want to depart some wisdom?
It's good to be back.
Okay. I agree. It's good to be back. With that being said, if you have any questions for the show, send them over to daddyandsonpodcast@gmail.com. That's DADDYANDSON podcast@gmail.com. Until next time, sons, be good to your daddies.
And daddies, take your boys shopping once in a while.
That'll be nice. Bye.